Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. Manchester United are eyeing a 40 million move for Leicester City midfielder Youri Tielemans. Tielemans is a transfer alternative to Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. Arsenal are also in for Youri Tielemans. 40 million for Tielemans is a reasonable fee. Tielemans is out of contract at Leicester next year. Leicester are struggling to convince him to sign a new contract. Tielemans has made over 100 appearances in the Premier League for Leicester. He is the age of 24. At one point, Tielemans was out on loan with Leicester. But then obviously Leicester decided to get him permanently. Leicester paid around £32 million. Leicester got Tielemans from Monaco, and before Monaco he was at Anderlecht. Last season Tielemans scored the only goal of the FA Cup final. It was obviously Leicester and Chelsea. But Manchester United do want a midfielder, because when Rangnick first came in, he identified Manchester United's midfield as a weakness. Man United have done business with Leicester, because revert back to the summer of 2019, we got Harry Maguire off them. Leicester have lost quite a few good players. You know, they lost Maguire, they lost Chilwell, they lost N'Golo Kante, lost Danny Drinkwater, lost Mahrez. Now, I want to talk with you about Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire is Manchester United's worst ever signing. Manchester United fans want the captaincy taken off Harry Maguire, because he's not a leader. Maguire was very poor in the 1-1 draw against Burnley. Maguire was the culprit for Rafael Varane's disallowed goal, and he was also to blame for Burnley's equaliser, because Maguire decided not to block Rodriguez. Man United are considering offloading Maguire in the summer. Maguire has been at Manchester United for over 2 years. He's the most expensive centre-half in the world at the moment, and he's the second most expensive signing at the club. Manchester United got him for £80 million. And he's had a few injuries as well since he signed for the club. He had a minor injury not so long ago. He had a calf injury at one point, and towards the end of last season he had ligament damage in his ankle. I reckon a lot of players are going to depart the club in the summer, not just Harry Maguire. Dean Henderson, he will leave in the summer. He should have left last month, but Manchester United blocked his exit. Dean Henderson doesn't really get in goal because revert back to last summer, De Gea reclaimed that number 1 spot back. Henderson has made just 3 appearances this season. He was in goal for the game against Middlesbrough in the Cup not so long ago. He made a couple of good saves in that game to deny Matt Crooks and Aaron Connolly from close range. Earlier on this season, Henderson had COVID for a while, didn't he? Revert back towards the end of last season, Henderson got that number 1 jersey. And he did well in a lot of the games he was in goal for last season. Henderson has got that experience behind him because before he endured 2 successful loans with Sheffield, he's also had other loan spells before with Stockport, Grimsby and Shrewsbury. And Henderson's got a contract to Man United until 2025. There's an option of a further year. Before the start of last season, he signed the new long-term contract. Phil Jones, he'll also leave the club in the summer. I was disappointed that he didn't leave last month. Don't forget, Romano said on deadline day last month that Phil Jones rejected a loan move to Bordeaux. But Man United and Bordeaux had actually reached an agreement for Phil Jones to go out on loan in order to get more playing time. And even reports from France said that Phil Jones' talks were at final stages. But Rangnick did mention, didn't he, that he was happy for Phil Jones to stay. Jones doesn't really get in the team, does he? He did come on in the cup game against Middlesbrough and he started the game against Wolves at Old Trafford earlier on this season. That's only because Maguire picked up an injury. Jones was our best performer against Wolves at Old Trafford. It was his first Premier League appearance since January 2020. At one point he was out of a knee injury for a while. His contract at Manchester United expires next year. This season has been his 11th season at Man United, so reflecting on that, he's been a long-serving player. Eric Bailly, he'll leave the club in the summer. Bailly doesn't really get in the team. Well, Bailly's out with injury at the moment. Not so long ago he was at the African Cup of Nations. The last game he played for Man United was the 3-1 win against Burnley in the final game of last year. But he actually came off injured in that one. He's too injury prone, isn't he? But he is a good centre half. Revert back to the early stages of last month, Damasio came out and said that Bailly agreed to join AC Milan on loan, and it mentioned that Bailly was extremely interested in a move to AC Milan. Back in April last year, Bailly signed a new contract to Man United till 2024. He's been at Manchester United over 5 years. Man United got him from Villarreal back in 2016. Manchester United paid £38 million for him. And Wan-Bissaka, there's a good chance he'll be leaving as well in the summer because he's not good enough to represent the club. Plus, he doesn't get his chances now anyway because he's no longer our first choice right back. Diego Dalot's our first choice right back under Rangnick. Bissaka was out with illness not so long ago. I think defensively Bissaka's good, but the attacking side of his game lets him down. This season's been his 3rd full season at Man United. Man United got Bissaka for $50 million from Crystal Palace back in the summer of 2019. Paul Pogba, good chance that he'll be leaving the club in the summer. Pogba's out of contract at Man United in the summer. There again though, it said a few weeks ago, like I've updated you already, it said Pogba is willing to stay at Man United as long as Ralph Rangnick is the manager for next season, because it said Pogba's been impressed by Rangnick since he took charge in December. And he said Pogba would be open to signing a new contract if Rangnick was to get the job on a permanent basis. Pogba recently played against Burnley, put a good performance out. He scored Manchester United's goal against Burnley. Well taken goal as well, and it was a good cross from Luke Shaw to find him. Anyway, it was Paul Pogba's first goal this season, and it was his first Premier League appearance since October because, Pogba was out with injury for a while. Pogba's had a few injuries though since he re-signed with the club, so you can say he's injury prone. Pogba also played against Middlesbrough in the Cup, and he put a good performance out in that one. Don't forget, Pogba was the one that won the penalty in normal time against Middlesbrough. This season has been his 6th season at Man United since he re-signed. He's won 3 trophies at the club so far. He's played over 200 games since he re-signed, and Manchester United paid £89 million for him, so reflecting on that, our most expensive sign at the moment. Matic, he'll leave as well in the summer. He's out of contract at Manchester United in the summer. Matic isn't one of our first choice midfielders, but despite that, he still seems to get his opportunities. Matic is the only predominant centre defensive midfielder Man United have got at the moment. I've always had my reservations about him, like I mentioned. Man United got Matic from Chelsea back in 2017, got him for 40 million. Lingard will also leave as well in the summer. Like I said, Lingard should have left last month, but Man United blocked his exit. It was Newcastle and West Ham that were battling it out to get him on loan. Juan Mata, he'll also leave the club in the summer. He's out of contract at Man United in the summer. Don't have a great deal of a perception on him anymore because he doesn't get in the team. Mata lost his place in the team a while ago. But he's had a good career at Man United. Mata, he's made 277 appearances in all competitions and he's scored 51 goals. He's been at Manchester United for 8 years, Mata, so reflecting on that, he's been a long-serving player. We got him from Chelsea back in 2014. Manchester United got him for 37.1 million. With the add-ons, I think it risen up to 40 million. Revert back to 2020, Mata rejected an 18 million a year contract offer to play in Saudi Arabia. Cristiano Ronaldo, there's a good chance that he'll be leaving in the summer because he's unhappy at Manchester United. And he said earlier on this season that he'll leave Man United in the summer if they fail to qualify for the Champions League. And it said that Ronaldo faces a 25% pay cut on his wages should Man United fail to qualify for the Champions League. And obviously it said as well, if Ronaldo doesn't like the club's next manager, he will leave. Ronaldo didn't recently start against Burnley, surprisingly. We decided to go with Cavani ahead of Ronaldo. But Ronaldo did come on in the game. And Edison Cavani, he will also leave the club in the summer. Revert back to earlier on this season, Rangnick revealed that Edison Cavani wants to stay at Man United until the end of the season. Cavani's out of contract at Man United in the summer. Now, Rangnick, he's been Manchester United's interim manager for around 2 months. He's managed 12 games so far in all competitions and he's lost 2 games at the moment. Rangnick is Manchester United's interim manager until the end of the season, and it did say that Rangnick is expected to continue in a consultancy role for a further 2 years. I'm very sceptical that Man United will offer Rangnick the job on a permanent basis. Rangnick has endured 1 transfer window as Manchester United's interim manager. And Man United endured a very disappointing January transfer window because last month we didn't make any signings. Like I said, Lingard and Henderson should have left, but they didn't. We had the incident with Mason Greenwood towards the end of last month. Man United though did loan quite a few players out last month. We loaned Donny van de Beek out to Everton. We loaned Anthony Martial out to Sevilla. We loaned Amad Diallo out to Rangers. We loaned Axel Tuanzebe out to Napoli. Ethan Laird went out on loan. Tielemans went out on loan. Around 8 players left Man United last month. But I was disappointed that Rangnick did not get backed last month, because he actually got promised that he was going to be backed. Prior to the Burnley game, it said Rangnick was facing a fresh dressing room revolt with his Manchester United players. Obviously, it said that our players are unhappy with Rangnick. Before Manchester United, he was the head of sports and development at Lokomotiv Moscow. To Rangnick's credit though, he has made changes since he's come in. Earlier on this season, he recommended Ewan Sharping as an assistant coach and analyst. He also recommended Saz Chalenzin as a sports psychologist, and he recommended Chris Armisen as an assistant coach. Recently, there was more rumours coming out regarding Erik ten Hag from Ajax. Obviously, a Dutch journalist claims that Erik ten Hag will leave Ajax at the end of the season, following the departure of Mark Overmars. Obviously, Erik ten Hag was upset with Mark Overmars leaving. Rangnick, though, actually mentioned earlier on this season that he wanted Erik ten Hag to become Man United's new manager in the summer. There's a lot of Manchester United fans that would like to see Erik ten Hag get recommended in. You've got to admire the work he's done at Ajax. You know, he's developed the young players well. He's won a couple of titles with them. Revert back to 2019, he got Ajax to the Champions League semi-finals. So there you go. And Erik ten Hag's contract expires next year. Erik ten Hag's been Ajax manager for over 4 years. Ajax appointed him in back in 2017. Ajax is the 4th club he's managing in his managerial career. Before Ajax, he managed Utrecht. Before then, he managed Bayern Munich's reserves, and before then, he managed Go Ahead Eagles. If Erik ten Hag's not our next permanent manager, it will be Mauricio Pochettino. Don't forget, he said the other day that Man United are considering swapping Cristiano Ronaldo for PSG boss Mauricio Pochettino. PSG are trying to get Zidane to replace Pochettino. Pochettino's reportedly told his friends that he will be leaving PSG in the summer. And the other week, reports from France said that Pochettino could be sacked by March, and it said Pochettino's job could depend on whether PSG gets to the next round of the Champions League or not. PSG play Real Madrid in the last 16 of the Champions League. Pochettino's been in charge of PSG for over a year. I think he's won a French Cup with them. His contract at PSG expires next year. But I do believe Pochettino would be the right manager for Man United. Like I said, he'd suit the strappings of the club. He'd get the best out of these group of players. Maybe he'd win some trophies as well. And he knows the Premier League well because he's managed in the Premier League before. Revert back to when Man United sacked Mourinho. Man United should have got Pochettino then, but the club decided to go with Solskjaer instead. Manchester United are looking for the 5th permanent manager since Ferguson retired. 4 permanent managers have been sacked since Ferguson. You know, we sacked David Moyes, We sacked Louis van Gaal, we sacked Jose Mourinho, and last year Manchester United sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The Glazers, they've owned Manchester United for a good 16 and a half years, and the Glazers have been one of the biggest issues at the club for a long time. The Glazers bought Manchester United for 500 million back in 2005. Revert back to April last year, Man United fans protested against the Glazers at the Carrington training ground and at Old Trafford because the Glazers were planning to scrap the Champions League for that European Super League. But in the end, the Glazers ended up apologising. Well, that's what Solskjaer mentioned at the time. And it said towards the end of last season that the Glazers were only willing to sell the club for $4 billion. I'm glad Ed Woodward stepped down, because Ed Woodward was one of the biggest issues at the club for a long time. Ed Woodward was at Manchester United for 17 years. Richard Arnold did replace Ed Woodward as the new chief executive. You know, Manchester United have not won a trophy since 2017. That's 5 years ago. That's nowhere near good enough to our standards. We've not won the Premier League since 2013. You know, that's 9 years ago. And like I said on one of my recent videos, Football Observatory said that Man United have spent over 1.3 billion in 10 years and we've only managed to win 4 trophies in 10 years. Man United have recouped around 397 million in sales. Man United have wasted around 909 million in the transfer market in that period. But Manchester United have not been the same team since Ferguson retired. No one's going to replicate what Ferguson did, so in that aspect we've got to accept that. You know, Ferguson of course brought success to Manchester United. You know, he didn't win out in his first 4 years and he was close to getting sacked. Alex Ferguson was at Manchester United for 26 years, so reflecting on that, he was a very long-serving manager. But a lot of United fans predicted it was all going to go wrong when Ferguson retired. You know, we weren't that good before Ferguson. We weren't that good under Ron Atkinson. We weren't that good under Wilf McGuinness. Sir Matt Busby started well, then it went downhill. And we certainly weren't good under Frank O'Farrell. We got relegated under Frank O'Farrell back in the 1970s. So there. Manchester United's next game is Southampton. It's at Old Trafford. It is Saturday the 12th of February. It's a 12:30 kick-off. I've already given you my preview for the game. You know, Manchester United are going into the game having drawn with Burnley 1-1. Obviously, Southampton are playing Tottenham very soon. Southampton's manager is Ralph Hasenhuttl. Southampton appointed Ralph Hasenhuttl back in December 2018, so he has been Southampton manager now for over 3 years. He's got a contract with Southampton until 2024. Hasenhuttl has already mentioned that he's considering retiring when his contract expires at Southampton. Southampton are like 12th in the Premier League at the moment. I tell you, when Southampton were very consistent when they had Mauricio Pochettino. Pochettino, don't forget, did guide Southampton to their highest ever finish in the Premier League, but there again, Pochettino only enjoyed a short managerial tenure with Southampton. I do know a lot of the players Southampton have got, like I mentioned on the preview earlier on today. You know, they have James Ward-Prowse, very good midfielder. Romeu, very good midfielder. Nathan Redmond, he's probably one of the best players they've got, or the best player they've got. Adam Armstrong, Southampton got him from Blackburn. Stuart Armstrong as well. They have Armando Broja. He was injured, but he's no longer injured now. Che Adams, Theo Walcott. I think last season Theo Walcott was out on loan with Everton, was he? Don't forget Theo Walcott is a former Arsenal player. Shane Long, they have him. Shane Long is a former West Brom player. They have Valentino Livramento, Romain Perraud, Jan Bednarik, Jack Stevens, you know, they're defenders. Kyle Walker-Peters, he's also a defender. William Smallbone, he's actually out with injury at the moment. Nathan Teller, he's out with injury. The goalkeepers Southampton have got, they've got Fraser Forster, Alex McCarthy. Alex McCarthy's out with injury. Caballero and Harry Lewis. So they're the goalkeepers Southampton have. Let me put into the equation that Southampton have lost good players. You know, they lost Danny Ings. You know, Danny Ings went to Aston Villa from Southampton. Charlie Austin, Southampton lost him quite a few years ago. They lost Vestergaard. He went to Leicester from Southampton. They lost Højbjerg as well. He went to Tottenham from Southampton. Don't forget they lost that Cedric Soares. He went to Arsenal from Southampton. There's other players as well they've lost. They lost Klein a while ago. They lost Dejan Lovren. They lost Adam Lallana. Van Dijk left them. Mane, he also left them. Liverpool have got quite a lot of Southampton's players because Liverpool have done very good business with them. And don't forget as well, Luke Shaw left Southampton, but he left them around 8 years ago. Obviously, Manchester United got Luke Shaw. But yeah, Man United have got to win this game against Southampton if we are to keep our top 4 hopes alive. You know, we dropped out of the top 4. Reflecting on that draw against Burnley, obviously West Ham did beat Watford 1-0. Man United won this fixture at Old Trafford last season against Southampton 9-0. And that was Manchester United's biggest win since the 9-0 win against Ipswich back in 1995, was it? It was a 1-1 draw at Southampton earlier on this season. It was actually the second game, wasn't it? The away game against Southampton. We do have some players missing, but not many. Obviously, Tielemans has missed the last couple of games, has he? Because he's had COVID, still got it now. Fred, he's not available at the moment because he recently got a positive test. I don't rate Fred anyway. He's not good enough to represent the club. Baye's still injured, but he doesn't really get in the team. Lindelof's missed the last few games. What is it? Due to personal reasons. And Chon's got an injury. And that's about it. And you already know the news on Mason Greenwood, don't you? Not so long ago, Mason Greenwood was dropped by Nike after rape allegation. Not so long ago, the Man United fans burnt their Mason Greenwood shirts. Greenwood is banned from England and Man United. He can't train or play any matches. The other week, Greenwood was released on bail after his arrest. Greenwood's been arrested twice on suspicion of sexual assault, making threats to kill, rape and assault. So yeah. At some point, more news will update on Greenwood. So anyway, guys, that's everything to update you with. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel if you do. Consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very soon.